800-847-1183. 800-847-1183. 800-847-1183. That's 800-847-1183.
Welcome in to Picks and Parlays Radio here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're really easy to find if you want to tune in that way. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me every day on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger is my handle. And also, I'm here every weekday, 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. Today is Wednesday, October the 2nd. It's a great time of year. We've got NFL, we've got college football, and we've got postseason baseball in full swing. And also NHL starting tonight, I believe, right? Is it tonight? Yeah. It's a great time of year. Plus, you know, all the basic girl things, pumpkin spice lattes, sweaters, which I'm already regretting because I'm already sweating. It's not quite fall weather, I suppose, here in Vegas, even though it has cooled off quite a bit. Today on the show, we've got, you guessed it, a lot of football, starting with college football with Craig Trapp, Texas, West Virginia, Utah State, LSU, which LSU has been scoring a ton of points, but the total in that one, I believe, is 74. So we'll see if they can continue their hot streak of that offense that is just so prolific. Because guess what? LSU has covered the total by themselves in 3 of their games, which is unreal. And then Baylor, K-State. Moving on to NFL, we've got Bucs, Saints, Jags, Panthers, Colts, Chiefs. Some of the games we're covering today. And then finally, yep, we've got a lot of postseason baseball to cover with Tony T, Cardinals, Braves, Nationals, Dodgers, and of course, that American League wildcard game tonight, Rays and A's, which should be a fun one. Both those teams are almost very similar in the fact that they're small market teams that can play with the big dogs. I don't know who the Astros are hoping wins this one, because I think both really pose a threat to the Astros in the next round. But you got to get past this game, you know, to make it to the next one. We've got a great show, lots of stuff to dive into on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll be back after the break on Picks and Parlays Radio, diving into college football. We're back after the break on Picks and Parlays Radio.
Tired of wearing the same 5 shirts every week? We can help. Stitch Fix is a personal styling service that matches you with your own stylist. Someone who listens to what works for you and delivers clothes right to your door. So you take the hassle out of shopping and find new styles that leave you feeling great. It starts with a simple profile you create in just minutes. Explore different styles and leave notes for your stylist about what you like. For a small $20 styling fee, your clothes are hand-selected for you based on your profile, and then delivered to you so you can try them on in the comfort of your own home. Pay only for what you keep and send everything else back. Plus, the styling fee is applied to what you keep, and shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. With Stitch Fix, you'll get access to great looks ranging from refined to rugged, and everything is hand-selected to fit your physique and your budget. Discover the stylist and styles that work for you at StitchFix.com. Personal styling for men, women, and kids. StitchFix.com. Personal styling for everybody.
Money Now 100 is not a lender, broker, or agent of any lender or financial advisor. We do not make loans or credit decisions. You must be 18 years or older and a U.S. resident to qualify. This is not an offer or solicitation to lend. I went to MoneyNow100.com and got the $5,000 I needed deposited in my
That's 800-754-4531.
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays Radio here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I am your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger. And we are starting the show off with some college football. We've got Craig Trapp joining us here in the studio live in Las Vegas to talk some college football. Hello.
Excited about college football week 6. And, of course, you're in town in Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, you're in Vegas, and it's week 6 of college football. NHL starts tonight, actually going to the Knights game tonight, so super excited about that. And this time of year, it gets cooler out here. It's only in the low 80s or high 70s the last few days.
I know. I'm still sweating. but that is neither here nor there. At least we don't have humidity here, I suppose. It's a dry heat.
Dry heat. I've heard that a million times.
I know.
It doesn't matter. It's hot.
Yeah, when it's 112 during the summer, it's still miserable. All right, so let's talk about some of these college football games as advertised. Let's start with Texas, West Virginia. Texas is favored in this one, minus 10.5. Total sits at 61. Texas 3-1, 2-2 against the spread. West Virginia 3-1, 2-2 against the spread. How are we seeing this one?
Well, Texas is finally for real, I believe. That's how I'm seeing this one. And you can tell that, of course, the lines for Texas can get out of control because they're a huge public team. These guys usually bet, the fans usually bet their team 10.5. We see this. So a road favorite at double digits in conference play, really tough considering how hard it is to go from to Texas to Morgantown is not easy to get to. And the total set at 61 in this one. This is like that hot girl everybody wants at school. Texas is finally, you have a chance with them. That's what it feels like when you got the playoffs out there. If Texas can roll the table this year, it would be the dream scenario for, of course, the selection committee.
Right, but we're talking about this game.
Getting ahead of myself a little.
Right, I know. You start talking about hot girls and you get all besides yourself.
Hey, I'm in Vegas, so why not?
I know. But yeah, 10.5 is a big number, especially since Texas lost to West Virginia at Texas last year. So that's, I think, the question in this one is, can Texas cover? Or if you like the over in this one, we were talking about this earlier, 61 is not that high of a number. And for Texas, they're averaging close to 42 points per game. They're going to score points. I think the question is, can West Virginia also score some points on this Texas defense that, you know what, I mean, they give up points. So I think that's the question I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think the total is definitely where I'm going to end up in this one. Remember, last year, 42-41, like you said, West Virginia won at Texas. In fact, the road team has won the last 3 games, but only that game went over. So years before, 28-14, Texas won at West Virginia. That was a pretty big win for Texas that year, and 24-23 years back. But this year, like you said, this Texas offense has been putting up numbers in bunches. What they did against LSU was pretty impressive. I mean, they really had – LSU was faking injuries to try to slow them down. It only was Burrow being so good for LSU that won that game for LSU. But I think Texas still has a shot. I think they win this game. I don't know about the spread in this one. I think I would stay away just because I don't like laying double digits at a tough Morgantown. But I do like the over here at 61. I think Neil Brown has done enough. We've seen the last few weeks with this offense, improved it enough. And Austin Kendall at quarterback for West Virginia, I think they get 25 to 28 points, and that will be more than enough to push this one over, in my opinion. Right.
West Virginia has scored 73 points in their past 2 games. So their offense seems to be looking better than it did kind of at the first of the season, because the one problem on their resume is that big loss to Missouri, losing 38-7. So after that game, I think a lot of people were kind of off of West Virginia, but since then they've been really good. Granted, when we talk about last year's game, there's no Will Grier at quarterback for West Virginia. There's no Dana Holgorsen, even though I do think Neil Brown is a great coach. But I don't know if I'd predict a win here, but I think it's going to be close.
Well, Tom Herman better not be sleeping. I'm just saying, because Neil Brown and Kendall will have that offense humming this week, especially early. And, you know, we've seen these games, North Carolina last week at Clemson. If you stay close early and get that confidence, it could be really dangerous late. But I don't think Texas will do that. I think they'll jump out on offense. I love Sam Ehlinger. I think he's more than qualified to get us 40-plus in this one, and I think that pushes this game over. So let's take the over 61 Texas at West Virginia in Week 6.
All right, let's go to Utah State LSU. The 5th-ranked Tigers are favored by 27.5 in this one. Total sits at 74, and I think that number is so high because LSU has been scoring a lot of points. This is not the LSU team of the past that only runs the ball and thrives on defense. It's an LSU team that really has a skilled quarterback, and they can throw the ball. They've scored over 45 points in all of their games, including, and that was against Texas. So this team has covered the over by themselves in 3 games. So it's hard not to look at the over, but 74 is really high.
It's a really big total. Also, the spread obviously really big, 27.5 for LSU here. I think it might be getting a little ahead of themselves there. I just think LSU's defense, they've given up a lot of points. Vandy, Vandy scored 38 against them, and then of course Texas, we've already talked about that Texas game. They scored 38. So I mean, they've given up 38 twice in the last 3 games. So to me, I think it's a little too many points. Utah State's a pretty solid team. That win against San Diego State at San Diego State was very impressive. 23-17 2 weeks back. I know Colorado State obviously not very good, but they took care of business last week. To me, I think you have to take Utah State in all these points. I know LSU's very good, but they have a lot bigger fish to fry ahead of them in SEC play.
Right, they have Florida next week.
This is what you call the sandwich game, when you got to get outside of conference play for 1 week in the middle of what they've already had. Played Vandy last week. So to me, I think this is a tough spot to cover. Obviously, I think they win the game, but I'm going to take the big number here with 27.5 is Gary Anderson, part 2, time back at Utah State, has done a very good job, and Jordan Love, quarterback for Utah State, will do plenty, I think, here to keep this within the number, and LSU defense just hasn't been that great so far.
Well, when we talk about a little bit of a look-ahead game, LSU is also sitting, I think, 3 of their top defensive ends. So I don't think there's going to be the pass rush that we normally see for LSU. And they also have 3 other defensive starters that will be sitting in this one due to some injuries. I think a lot of them got hurt in that Texas game, as we saw. I don't think they were faking.
Well, I think they definitely were faking. It's kind of like Notre Dame against Georgia, where they're like the guys
those
going
were
to
bad.
Get down. But Coach O, they recruit as good as anybody. They're Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State type talent. So they're deep at defense. They just haven't been great. Part of the problem is LSU's offense is scoring so quickly now. So they're on the field a lot more. They're on the field a ton.
And those boys are big. They've been eating the gumbo. They're over 300 pounds on the defensive line.
It's supposed to be hot and humid, of course, in the South. And I think this one spells a lot of points. I don't know, 74 seems a little big for me, so I'll stay away from the total. But I do like Utah State a lot here, almost at the premium level, actually, for me. So let's take Utah State and the near 4 touchdowns here.
Even though the only time LSU has not covered, it was against Northwestern State, and they were favored by 51.5, and I think they missed it by 1 point. So they've done a great job of covering the spread.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to Baylor, Kansas State. Kansas State favoring this one at -1, so almost a pick 'em. Total sits at 50. Baylor 4-0, 2-2 against the spread. K-State 3-1, and also 3-1 against the spread. What are we feeling on this one?
This is kind of a hidden good game here. We haven't seen Baylor really play anybody yet. So this is, Iowa State. I just don't know how good Iowa State was last week. But at least they did win. I mean, that's the positive. Kansas State, they had a big win against Mississippi State.
Right.
Last week, kind of let down Oklahoma State. But I think Oklahoma State is pretty good. So I don't really fault them. And that was at Oklahoma State. So to me in this one, we remember seeing this line in the summer as Games of the Years came out. Baylor was favored by around 3. Now Kansas State's favored by 1 with a total of 50. So basically a pick 'em type game. I think you have to take Kansas State here at home. I love what Skylar Thompson's done, dual threat quarterback here for Kansas State, and Coach Kleiman, first year. I think he's done a very good job. Very tough place to play at Kansas State. I think Baylor loses this one. I like Kansas State and the -1 here.
All right, those are our college football picks with Craig Trapp. When we get back from the break, we're talking more football, this time NFL. Craig is back with some of the lines on some of these games. So if you stick with us after the break, we've got a lot of football to cover. And, of course, more baseball towards the end of the show. Stick with us after the break on Picks and Parlays Radio.
Want more? We'll give you 40 blue pills or 40 yellow pills for $99 and add 4 more.
Information and learn how you can get your book published. Pick up your phone right now and call us 24 hours a day at this number, 800-603-0885, 800-603-0885, 800-603-0885. That's 800-603-0885.
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays Radio here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I am your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger. It's just my name. That's my handle. Right now, we've got more football to cover. This time it's NFL. We've got Craig Trapp returning for the second segment for more because you just can't get enough, can you, Craig?
Hey, this time of year, it's football season. You can't get enough. NFL Week 5. Some big matchups. I think a couple of these are going to be a heck of games, too, that we're going to be covering.
All right, let's start off with the Bucs and the Saints. The Saints coming off 2 huge wins over the Cowboys and the Seahawks, where they were underdogs in both of those, and they won outright. Meanwhile, the Bucs, pretty impressive in their last game as well. That big win on the road against the Rams. So who are we liking in this one? The Saints are favored by 3. Total sits at 47.
This is a interesting matchup because the line came down, of course, because when the advanced lines came out, of course, they were expecting Drew Brees to be the quarterback. So now that's went from either 6 or 6.5 in most spots to 3 now. It's almost like they're begging you to take the Saints, and usually when the sports books are doing that, that's when the other side hits. But I just don't know how you go across the New Orleans team that is coming off these 2 impressive wins.
Right, and Teddy Bridgewater, he's a backup quarterback, but he's being paid $7 million a year, which makes him one of the higher paid backup quarterbacks in the league. And he's been playing, serviceable. He's not Drew Brees, but with the pieces they have around him, he's been more than enough to win these games.
And their defense has been amazing.
Right.
The last 2 games, defense, special teams has picked it up. And you see that a lot when you lose a key quarterback or a running back where everybody else steps up, not just on the offense or the defense, but the entire team. We've seen that from New Orleans. But I guess you can't discount Tampa Bay's 2 big wins. They won on the Thursday game at Tampa Bay. That was an impressive win. And then last week, then they lost to the Giants, which they were up, 18 points or something with a few minutes into the fourth quarter. and then lost that one. And then they bounced back at the Rams last week, 55-40. Very impressive win. Jameis Winston, maybe he's turning the corner finally.
Right, that's the question, I think, for a lot of people is which Jameis Winston will we see? The Jameis Winston that went first overall, or is it going to be the Jameis Winston that throws all these interceptions and who is talking nonsense on the sidelines about eating a W? Because when he's good, you know, he's been a lot better, and I know a lot of people were talking about hiring Bruce Arians to be that quarterback guru for Winston, and I think so far, you know, it's working.
Well, Bruce Arians, I think, has done enough, but we still see some glimpses of that as bad decisions and some bad interceptions, and that's what they have to avoid, because to win at New Orleans, you can't afford extra possessions to a New Orleans offense that is as talented, even without Drew Brees, as anybody in the league. I think this is going to be a good game. Let's remember last year, Tampa Bay did pull an upset at New Orleans to open the year, I believe it was. They won 48-40 in the shootout to open the year, and then New Orleans won in Tampa Bay 28-14 late in December. So they've done it before, but I don't think this year. I just think New Orleans is playing with a lot of confidence. I think they're going to really play good on defense and protect Teddy Bridgewater. That's what they've been doing. They've running the ball. They play good defense. I think New Orleans -3 is a gift from the sports books, and usually I worry about that, but we're just going to stay with it this week. New Orleans -3 is going to be our play.
Right. The one thing about Tampa Bay is it is a divisional game, and I think some of those play a little closer than some other games because these teams are familiar. They know each other really well, but the Saints, they just have so many weapons. Alvin Kamara is so good after contact. It seems like some of these guys can't wrap him up. They can't tackle him. So that's going to be a real test of this Bucs defense is if they can stop this Saints rush attack. And also bringing in Taysom Hill. It's a change of pace, guys. So
well, they haven't been good in short yardage the last few weeks. That has been the one. They had several against the Cowboys that, man, you were like, man, if Mark Ingram was there, this would probably have been a way easier 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 type thing. But I think when they do bring Taysom Hill in, that gives them that extra guy because then you can run Wildcat type stuff.
And it's just harder to prepare for.
Yeah, I mean, just another thing that you have to throw out there with all the talent they have on both receiver, tight end, and at running back, that just makes it that much more difficult. But the Saints, the short yardage is somewhat of an issue, although last week the Bucs gave up, 40-some points, so 40 points.
Yeah, but it was to a Rams offense that's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a shootout.
So you're taking the Saints?
We're going to take the Saints -3 here. I just think they third week in a row, they not only win, but they cover 3rd week in a row.
All right, let's move on to the Jags and the Panthers. The Panthers are favored at home -3.5. Total sits at 41. This is the battle of the backup quarterbacks, even though at this point, I don't know if you call Gardner Minshew a backup. He's been so good. He's been threading the needle for some of those receivers, and some of his throws you just can't cover. He's been so on the money. And he's been a really good find for the Jags. Meanwhile, the Panthers will have Kyle Allen. I always want to say Josh Allen. But Kyle Allen, who's won almost all of his games, I think.
It would be hard to imagine the spot where Cam Newton gets healthy and he doesn't get the starting role back. But, they're saying he's going to be out another 2 or 3 weeks. Imagine if Kyle Allen gets another win this week, and then before you know it, you start to hear it with the fans and the coaching and the players that they want to stick with who is getting them to that spot.
Right.
Lucky for them, I think the Jags get the win in this one, outright win. I think underdog by 3.5. I love getting the extra hook here. I just think this Jacksonville defense is way more talented than the Panthers at this point. So to me, I think you get the better defense, a hotter quarterback, if that's even possible. They've both been really hot in both their starts, and I think the total here, I think this one goes over 41. I just think there's going to be a lot more points from Jacksonville, and that makes Carolina going to have to play catch up late.
I think this Panthers defense gets a lot more credit than it probably deserves because last year they thrived on their defense, but they lost a lot of players from that defense. They lost Thomas Davis, who is almost like the quarterback of that linebacking core. Obviously, they still have Luke Kuechly, who is one of the better players in the entire league, but they don't have Peppers. And Gerald McCoy hasn't been quite as good of a pass rusher this year. So I don't know, the Jags defense, I think, has the edge in this one just because the pass rush has been really good.
Clear. I think the Jags, the one question, obviously, Ramsey didn't play last week. He's questionable to play this week.
Gosh.
They're way better when he's playing. I mean, he is very talented. I know he's a distraction a little bit, but I think it's helped that they've won their last 2 games because then that kind of distraction goes away. When you're losing and those kind of things come up, like you're begging for trades, and then that comes out. But they've won the last 2 games. I think they make it 3 in a row this week. I'm going to take the points here, but I don't think we're going to need them. I just think the Jags are really good on defense, and Gardner Minshew is playing as well as any and as much as confidence as any quarterback in the league right now. Let's take the 3.5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, next up we've got the Colts and the Chiefs. This one is in Kansas City. The Chiefs are favored at -11. Total sits at 56.5. How are we seeing this one line up?
Well, this is that revenge game from the playoffs last year. The Chiefs won 31-13 in Kansas City, of course, in the playoffs last year to set up the game against New England the next week. But I think this is going to be a pretty good game, even though the line does not suggest. When you see a line of 11, usually you think blowout. I don't know. I just think this Colts team's way better. I know they got caught off guard last week, losing at home to Oakland, but I just think this Colts team is a little better than what this line suggests.
Well, especially when we've seen some of these big lines, and a lot of them haven't covered. We saw the Rams; they got beat, and they were favored by 9.5 at home. So I think this deep in the year, it's hard to take some of those big numbers unless it's the Dolphins or the Jets.
Well, and you got to have a team that's willing to keep pushing it late,
right?
Like New England. I mean, they're one of the teams.
Even though they didn't cover, they put Tom Brady back in, and they still didn't cover.
They covered against the Dolphins, though. But to me, that was a division game, and a little revenge because they've lost down there in years past. But in this one, I think if you're going to play the side, I think you have to play the Colts. I just think we saw Kansas City last week. That defense still has issues. They still get lots of points, but that means to me I take the over here. Both of these teams are 3-1 against the over this year. Both the defenses have looked a little suspect at times. Well, the Chiefs have looked a lot suspect at times. I think this one goes way over. 56.5, that is a big number in the NFL. But I still like the over. I just think these two are going to both put up 27 plus, and that means this is going to go way over. I think it's going to be like 35-28 type game with Chiefs winning, and that puts us on the over here. That's the stronger of the two plays for me.
Yeah, the Chiefs gave up quite a few points to the Lions, right?
Yeah, 34-30, and had to really come back to win that game. The week before, 33-28. The only game they didn't cover was at Oakland, 28-10, and they scored all those points in the first half. There was no points in the second half in that one. They scored 28 in the first half, and then the first week, of course, they scored 40 against Jacksonville's good defense. That tells you how good this Kansas City offense is. 40-26 in the opening week. So to me, this one goes way over. I think it's a pretty easy play. I mean, heck, this Indianapolis Colts team gave up 31 points to Oakland that hasn't been able to score the last few weeks before that.
Right. Although I will say that Matt Stafford is probably a better quarterback than a lot of people give him credit for. Some of those throws he was making, they're really good.
Talent has never been the problem with Stafford. It's
he's a gunslinger.
Decision making. It's like it is literally like watching Brett Favre for me when you watch Matt Stafford. And when he's on, when those guys are on and everything goes their way, it's amazing because they are hitting all these tight windows. To me, I think you'll see that Mahomes is definitely that type of quarterback where he can go. I mean, some of the stuff he's doing right now is
incredible.
You would never coach this to any kid, and he's doing it time after time after time, and staying away from turnovers, which if you're going to have 56.5, unless you're going to throw pick sixes, you can't avoid a whole lot of turnovers or field goals. I don't think we're going to see many field goals, and I don't think we're going to see many turnovers or stops in this one. I think this one goes well over the 56 number here.
Yeah, I'm still wondering how much money that Mahomes is going to get.
Well, whatever Dak Prescott gets, he's going to get more because Dak Prescott's going to sign first, and then that's going to set the new,
precedent.
Yeah, it's going to be. They're saying $40 million per year, so it's going to be probably $320 million.
Which, as much as the league makes, the best player in the league should be making that money, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues what he's going to do this year, he's going to be back-to-back MVP, youngest ever to do that, and probably going to be on the team that's going to have for the second straight year, most likely, the home field advantage in the AFC. So
right.
If you're going to ever pay a guy, this is the type of guy you do it.
Right. And if Roger Goodell is making more, how much is he making? Like 50 mil or 40 mil?
They might see who makes more in this.
Oh, gosh. Don't get me started on that train. But those are our NFL picks. After the break, we're diving into postseason baseball because it's October, and we're excited about it. We're back after the break on Picks and Parlays.
Pros know what you don't paint is just as important as what you do paint. So the Home Depot has bulk pricing on a full assortment of 3M painters, tapes, and paint essentials. Everything you need.
800-932-1749. That's 800-932-1749.
And we're back on Picks and Parlays Radio on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I am your host, Chelsa Messinger, and we've saved, I think, our most exciting segment for last. We've got Tony T joining us to talk a little postseason baseball. Tony, are you ready for the postseason?
I'm ready for the postseason. What a way to start, huh? With that nice 8th inning comeback by the Nationals to get that win 4-3. A wild 8th inning. Hader, has himself to blame. Hits a batsman. That was questionable, although I thought they made the right call. You couldn't really tell if it was bat first or flesh first. So I'm okay with that. But then the walk, and of course, Grisham, we've had it happen to us. Have you ever played baseball? You know what it's like. You just assume a good hop. He didn't get a good hop, and the ball gets by him, and it allows the Nationals to get that 4-3 win.
I know, that's tough. I never want to see any game won that way just because I feel so bad for the guy that makes the error. But regardless, the Nationals now, they have a postseason win at least. I know the postseason has been haunting for that fan base over the past, decade or two. So it was good to see the Nationals finally get a win in the postseason, even though they've got the Dodgers up next, which no small feat.
No small feat at all. Yes, it's been tough on the Nationals. I remember the Dodgers talking about. I remember that series against the Giants where they should have won that series. I think they went like 18 innings until they lost to the Cider in one of the wildest games, because I was at Dodgers Stadium for that game, and the Nationals game started 3 hours ahead of. The Dodgers and Nationals game almost finished at the same time, because that deciding game for Washington went like 18 innings. Of course, it was another disappointing loss by the Nationals to get eliminated. It was about 3 years ago.
Oh, I know. DC sports, some of their fan bases have to be a little frustrated, especially with how the Redskins are playing right now. But let's talk about this Nationals-Dodgers matchup in the NLDS. Dodgers favored -180, probably because they're at home. They have not announced a starter yet, but we're thinking it's probably going to be Walker Buehler because Ryu has been better on the road, so they'll probably start him in Game 3, and then Kershaw will probably be Game 2 just to get him the allotted time of rest. And they have said that Rich Hill is starting Game 4. But let's talk about Game 1, because that's the one we're betting on. Patrick Corbin's probably going for the Nationals. I think they did announce that today, that he is actually starting for them. So initial thoughts on this Game 1.
Yeah, Corbin's going was announced actually 1 hour after the finish yesterday. We got that information right away at about 12:30 a.m. Eastern time it came across. But we've got Corbin, possibly Buehler here for the Dodgers. But one thing to note here with the Dodgers, when they're facing a left-handed starter, all over winning percentage, they've just won 57% of the time compared to 69% of the time when facing a right-hander. I like their lineup better against those right-handers, but they're going to have a left-handed lineup here, facing lefty lineup here in Game 1. Of course, LA wants Kershaw to have that full rest in case the Game 5 is necessary. That's why it looks like he'll go for Game 2. So, our pick here is going to take Corbin and Buehler. We're going to go ahead and take Washington Nationals here at +150. Walker Buehler, look at his past 2 home starts. He's given up 10 earned runs and 11 innings of work. You're either going to get the good Buehler or the bad Buehler. You don't know what you're going to get. He's kind of tailed off at the end there. And, of course, you got to worry about the late innings, because I'm no fan of Joe Kelly, although he's back and healthy. And, of course, Kenley Jansen coming off his worst season in his regular season baseball career with the Dodgers. And, also look here at the injury issues with the Dodgers. Justin Turner, he missed the final 5 games. When you count the layoff, Chelsea, that's 8 games without playing and seeing Major League Baseball pitching. And you got to worry about the rust and his time at the plate, missing all that time.
I know. I almost wish that it doesn't come down to Kenley Jansen, because I don't know if I can watch it. It's been hard to watch some of these games that he's blown, because in the past, he's been this big name. He's been dynamite for them. And this year, it just hasn't been there. And especially in the postseason, that's tough to watch. Even though the Nationals, as we've mentioned before, they've had a lot of tough postseasons to watch. But in baseball, momentum matters. Sometimes we see these teams catch fire towards the end of the season, and I think that's the case for the Nationals. If they can carry on this momentum that they won last night, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, even in LA.
Yeah, because no one's really talking about them, right? I mean, the whole thing when the Nationals past several seasons with their disappointments, oh, they were the favorites, oh, they're going to win. This year, there's not a lot of high expectations. Here they are coming through. Nobody really likes the manager, but somehow, some way, Martinez was able to get it together, patch it up. He threw in Strasburg there to help them get through that game against Milwaukee. But other than the issues with Turner here, Cody Bellinger has seen his home run production decrease the past month, but look at his postseason stats, Chelsa. Overall postseason stats, batting 172, and last year, 115. I got to be able to worry about that here. And you got to wonder here, what will Martinez do? The bullpen's been an issue. We've seen the Dodgers using some of their starters in relief roles here in the postseason, where we expect to see Maeda and Stripling, although I'm not a big fan of Stripling in pressure spots. So I'm a little concerned with him in there. Of course, Urias has been around. So I think Dodgers okay at middle relief, except with Stripling. But who knows? Maybe we'll see Anibal Sanchez, Austin Roth, even Joe Ross in there in middle innings. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've seen Chelsa managers do that in the past. I remember back in the Marlins when they were bringing in their starters into many of these playoff games, and it worked because they won the World Series.
Right. One thing, how much does postseason experience matter to you in this game? Because obviously the Dodgers have it, and it seems like they find ways to win even when guys are injured. I think they had the most walk-offs in baseball this year. So does that matter when it comes to what you're looking at for bets?
I look for it mostly in the late innings. That the seventh and eighth inning, those are the pressure innings in baseball, seventh, eighth, and ninth. Can you get that key 2-out inning? We saw Soto do that. So that would, to me, the way the Nationals won that game, overcoming that deficit, I think was huge because it gives them so much momentum. It looked bleak for them, down 3-1, eighth inning, Hader on the mound, 2 outs, all that damage, all those runs scored with 2 outs. That is such a momentum booster for this team. And of course, Dodgers, you look at them, Verdugo, he's hurt. He may not be available here. Well, actually won't be available for this series. So they're going to be missing one of their seventh, eighth inning bats there if they like to do the old position switches when they go to the bullpen. So they'll be with one less bat in their lineup there. And I don't know. They're going with this young kid Lux here at second base. I'm a big fan of Chris Taylor. To me, he's a clutch player, but looks like they want to go with that youth at second base.
So just to be clear, you're taking the Nationals.
I'm going to take the Nationals here, the left-hander Corbin. He's pitched well the past 2 starts against the Dodgers, both last year, 1 run in 13 and a third innings, and he's pitched well on the road. And go back and look at the Nationals and Dodgers playing at Dodger Stadium. In the past 10 games, each team has won 5 games. So I'm going to take the underdog here, Washington Nationals plus 150.
All right, let's go over to the other NLDS, Cardinals-Braves. Braves home favorites in this one, minus 135. Total sits at 9. It's Miles Mikolas, 9-14, 4.16 ERA, facing Dallas Keuchel, 8-8 with a 3.75 ERA. And worth noting, Keuchel definitely has postseason experience. He's pitched in the World Series for the Astros and won a ring. So how are we feeling on this game?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Atlanta Braves side at minus 130. I'm concerned about a couple of things. First, these St. Louis relievers, they didn't play very well last 10 games in an ERA approaching 6. And really, Cardinals really screwed up. I mean, they had to pitch their best pitcher, probably the best pitcher in baseball right now, Jack Flaherty. When you look at his numbers, he had to pitch on Sunday to clinch the NL Central. And that means, we're looking here at Mikolas in this start instead of Flaherty. St. Louis, they went on that losing streak, losing 4 straight. They get game 162 because their best pitcher on the mound, Flaherty. But I'm a little concerned here with the Cardinals when Flaherty's not pitching. The Cardinals have not looked good. And of course, Mikolas, he does give up home run to fly ball rate 16, high whip on the road, high ERA on the road. And of course, Dallas Keuchel, as you talked about, Chelsa, he does have experience, 60% ground ball pitcher. So I like that. He does his best work at home, ERA at 2.74. And one thing I look at too here is that he hasn't logged in a lot of innings, so his arm is fresher. Remember, he was one of those late signings, 112 innings of work this year. And of course, he has 9 starts in the postseason, ERA 3.31, and teams batting 219 against him in the postseason. So I'm definitely going to look here at the Braves. They've been a good home team, Chelsa, 50-31.
Right, and at minus 135, that's actually not too bad of a value, especially when they have, I guess Soroka would be their ace, but Keuchel's been good in the postseason, and the Cardinals do not have their ace. So I think that's pretty good value if you're taking the Braves. Let's move on to tonight's game. because we need to dive into it. A's, Rays. A's at home in this one, -137. Two teams that are kind of those mid-market teams, but they play with the big boys. They've knocked off a lot of these really good teams. The Rays play in the AL East, where they have to contend with the Yankees and the Red Sox before they gave up. And then the A's, of course, in the same division as the Astros. So how are we seeing this one?
Well, whoever went, Houston's got to be shaking their head, man. They don't want to see any of these teams. But I'm going to actually go here with the under. I think we're going to see a pitching duel here. Under a total of 7.5 runs here with Tampa Bay and Oakland. It'll be Sean Messinger who will be getting the start here for the Athletics. He's pitched well since returning from that shoulder injury in 5 starts. His ERA has been fantastic in 29 2/3 innings, 1.08 whip. I really like that about him. The one thing with Oakland here, Chelsa, a very good relief corps and very good middle relief for this Oakland team. And I think that's going to pay off for them. Charlie Morton, a veteran, 30% strikeout rate. That is a career high. And he's coming out that really good outing against the Yankees. No runs and a hit over 6 innings. And, of course, he's pitched well against Oakland. 1 run allowed in 13 1/3 innings. And, of course, the bullpens, they played well here, Chelsea. So I'm going to look for a pitching duel and the relievers to come in and do a good job. I don't know, Chelsea. You may have to stay up late for this one. We could see extra innings. And if there is extra innings, it could go a long time because these bullpens are pretty good. I like the under 7.5.
I think the pitching matchup, I think the Rays are a touch better just because I think Charlie Morton is a bona fide ace and the Rays relievers have been some of the best in baseball. Even though Sean Messinger, as you've mentioned, coming off shoulder surgery, that's really impressive to be so good so soon. But remember, this is the guy that threw the no-hitter against the Red Sox. I think it was last season. I do think that the A's have the edge when it comes to hitting. They've got the power that the Rays might not have. Chapman, Olsen, they've had guys that have been hitting home runs, especially against good pitching. So I think they get the edge there. I will say, we talked about the under last night. I think it was 7.5 as well, and that hit by half a run, but it was still hit. So as we've seen, some of these games, you can put in whoever you want when it's one game. We saw Steven Strasburg coming out of the pen last night. So that's why I think the pitching is going to be a little bit stronger in this one. I agree with you on the under.
Yeah, all hands on deck. And don't forget, Chelsea, as you know, Oakland is a pitcher's park. A lot of foul ground territory out there and a lot of outs. The ball is difficult to carry. Of course, we're looking here at autumn weather now in the Bay Area. The air is usually heavy. We start to see, the ball not carry as much. And this time of the year, it's kind of like in April where you get a lot of unders. And I think this definitely plays up to it. I'm not worried about shadows. We're already into autumn now. The sun is going down sooner. So I really see here the pitchers duel in this one, and really a tight game here because you got really good pitching staffs, good management on both sides, and really good close game. And also I think Tampa Bay's hitting may be effective because it's really tough, as you know, for those Florida teams to travel all the way to the West Coast. So I think there I think is the advantage there for Oakland's side. But again, for a really low-scoring game.
Even though I think it's a little harder to go the other direction, the West Coast teams that go to East Coast, but still a long day of travel.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking here as a long day of travel. It's either tough on both teams, but whichever way you look at it. Fortunately for them, it's only one game coast to coast, and like I said, it should be interesting here to see who gets Houston next because they can give trouble. They can give trouble to those Astros.
I know. I don't know who the Astros want to win because I think both of those matchups are really tough, especially for the first round. But wrapping up things with Tony T, thanks for coming on. Those are our baseball picks after the break. Recapping all of today's picks after the break on Picks and Parlays.
Do you have a problem hearing the television? Do you need to crank up the volume so loud your family is screaming at you? Then put on your TV ears. TV Ears has helped millions of people just like you hear TV loud and clear without cranking up the volume. For about $60 with a 30-day free trial, you can get your own set of TV Ears. When you wear TV Ears, you can mute the TV volume for private listening or let others watch TV with you. Order in the next 10 minutes and take us up on our 30-day home trial and very special price. TV Ears is a brand hearing professionals have trusted for more than 20 years. And through this special radio offer, you can get your very own for just
determine if you qualify for these new programs. They can help you reduce your interest, lower your payment, and even forgive a portion of your student loan debt. Take control of your financial future. Make this free 5-minute free call now to Nationwide Student Loans and learn how you can reduce your student loan debt.
800-439-7851, 800-439-7851, 800-439-7851, 800-439-7851.
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays Radio here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you search Picks and Parlays, guess what? We're really easy to find. We're usually the first thing that pops up. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger. We had a great show, chock full of all things football and also a little postseason baseball because it's October. It's one of the best times of the year when it comes to sports. Right now, let's do a recap of all of today's picks. In case you weren't paying attention, we got you covered. Craig Trapp gave us these college football picks. Texas at West Virginia, taking the over 61. Utah State, LSU, taking Utah State plus 27.5. Baylor, K-State, taking K-State -1. And then he had some NFL picks for us, Craig Trapp did. Bucks at Saints, taking the Saints -3. Jags at Panthers, taking the Jags plus 3.5. Colts at Chiefs, taking the over in that one, 56.5. And then finally, putting a bow on things with some Major League Baseball picks for the postseason. NLDS Cardinals at Braves, game 1, taking the Braves at home, -130. Nationals Dodgers, taking the Nats on the road, plus 150, big dogs in that one. But the Nationals are hot. They had that exciting win last night in the wild card. And then finally, the Rays at A's. That game is tonight. Taking the Rays and the A's to play the under at 7.5 because we do like the pitching matchups in that one. And the A's play at a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which is nice in the era of juiced balls that we've seen so many home runs. We're back same time, same place tomorrow, 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern here on Picks and Parlays, talking more football, and we've got rapid fire college football picks. Always fun to do. So until then, we'll see you tomorrow on Picks and Parlays Radio. Bet, win, repeat. See you tomorrow.